I thought I was just tired. Maybe my eyes were playing tricks on me. But when I saw that old porcelain doll blink, actually blink, I knew something was wrong. Hours later, my dog vanished without a sound. What followed still haunts me, and I'm finally ready to talk about it. If you've ever felt like something was watching you, even when you were alone, this story might hit too close to home. Stay till the end, because the final moments, they still give me nightmares. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share if you enjoy creepy true stories. It started small, so small I didn't even think twice about it. Max, my dog, has always been a pretty calm guy. Friendly, chill, the kind of dog who'd nap through a thunderstorm. But after I brought that old porcelain doll home from the yard sale, he changed. The first day he sniffed it, backed up, and just stared at it from across the room. I thought it was funny, like maybe he didn't like the way it smelled. But by the second night, he refused to go near the shelf it sat on. If I called him into the room, he'd freeze at the doorway and whine softly, tail low, ears back. Something about it unsettled him. And honestly, I couldn't blame him. Around that same time, the lights in the house started acting weird. Just small flickers here and there. You know, the kind that makes you pause for a second and then shrug it off because it's probably just old wiring or maybe a bad bulb. That's what I told myself anyway. But it wasn't just the lights. I started getting this feeling, at night especially, like I wasn't alone. I'd be brushing my teeth or lying in bed and suddenly feel like someone was watching me. You ever get that? That cold, tight knot in your chest that shows up out of nowhere? It kept happening, more and more often. Then there were these moments, little ones, where I swore the doll had shifted. Not much, just enough to make me second-guess myself. I'd leave it facing one direction and come back later to find it turned just slightly, like its head had tilted or its hands were pointed a little differently. But I didn't panic. I convinced myself it was memory playing tricks. I wanted to believe that. I really did. It happened on a Thursday night. I remember because I was up late, scrolling through my phone, trying to distract myself from that creeping unease that had become a part of my nights. The house was quiet, too quiet. Even Max wasn't pacing or snoring like he usually did. That alone should have tipped me off. I got up to grab some water, and as I passed the living room, something caught my eye. Just a flicker of movement, barely there. The doll was sitting on the shelf, right where I always kept it. But something was different. I don't know why I stopped, but I did. I turned my head, looked straight at it, and I swear to you, I saw it blink. Not a slow, creepy horror movie blink. Just a quick, natural blink. Like a person. Like it was the most normal thing in the world. I froze. Completely. Every part of me just stopped working. I stood there for what felt like 5 minutes, staring it down, waiting to see it happen again. Nothing. The doll just sat there, glassy-eyed, expression blank. I even walked up to it, slowly, thinking maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe I was tired. Maybe the light hit its eyes weird. Something. Anything. But the second I stepped closer, Max let out this low, guttural growl from the hallway. Not loud, just deep and tense, like he was warning me. I glanced back at him, and the fear in his eyes made my stomach twist. He wasn't growling at me. He was growling at it. I picked him up and backed away without even thinking. I kept telling myself, it didn't blink. You're just tired. But I didn't sleep that night. I kept the lights on and didn't take my eyes off that shelf until the sun came up. The next morning felt off. You know that heavy silence that settles in right before a storm? That's what it was like. No birds, no neighborhood sounds, just quiet. I didn't see Max when I woke up, which was unusual. He always jumped onto the bed the moment I stirred, even if it was just to demand breakfast. I got up, called his name. Nothing. I checked the hallway, the kitchen, the backyard, every room in the house. Gone. No leash missing, no doors open, no windows broken. I checked under beds, in closets, behind furniture, like maybe he'd gotten stuck or spooked and was hiding. Still nothing. And that's when the panic hit. I started running up and down the street yelling his name, thinking maybe he somehow slipped out. Neighbors came out to help. I printed flyers, called animal control, left his favorite toy and a piece of my shirt on the porch, hoping he'd sniff his way back. But deep down, I knew that wasn't it. Max didn't just vanish. It wasn't like him. He was loyal, attached. He never strayed far, even off leash. And the weirdest part? There was no sign of struggle, no knocked over furniture, no scratch marks on the door, just absence, like he'd been erased. I kept walking back into the living room, staring at that stupid doll, just sitting there. Same blank expression, same pale porcelain skin. But I felt it, this thick, pressing energy in the room. And every time I looked at it, this voice in my head whispered something I didn't want to hear. It's not just a doll. I wanted to believe it was all coincidence. A weird week, a runaway dog, nothing more. But that night I slept on the couch with every light on because I didn't want to be alone. Not really. Things didn't get better after Max disappeared. They got worse, and not in a dramatic horror movie kind of way. No loud bangs, no shadows crawling across the walls. Just little things, quiet things that chipped away at my sanity. The doll started moving. Not in front of me, never that obvious. But it wouldn't stay where I left it. One morning I walked into the bathroom and there it was, sitting on the counter. I froze. I hadn't brought it there. I know I hadn't. I picked it up with a towel and put it back on the shelf. Locked the bathroom door after that, even though I was the only one home. Then I found it in my bed, just lying there on my pillow like it had always been part of my nightly routine. I nearly screamed. My heart was racing so fast I thought I'd pass out. I didn't touch it that time. I just left the house and sat in my car for hours. Tried to convince myself I was losing it. Maybe I'd moved it and forgotten. Sleepwalking? Stress? I even Googled it. But nothing made sense. Nothing normal, anyway. The dreams started soon after. Always the same. I'd wake up in bed, but the room would be wrong. Too dark. Too quiet. The doll would be standing at the foot of my bed. Not sitting, standing, watching me. Eyes open. Unblinking. I couldn't move in the dreams. Couldn't scream. Just stare while it tilted its head like it was curious about me. Then came the tapping. Always 3 knocks. Slow, deliberate. Usually at 3 a.m. I'd get up, walk the whole house, find nothing. But every time I turned around, I felt something behind me. Breathing. Waiting. That's when I started recording the nights. I had to know if it was just in my head or if something else was in the house with me. I didn't expect to find anything. I set the camera up in the corner of the living room, angled it just right so it faced the shelf where the doll usually sat. Just a basic webcam and my old laptop. Nothing fancy. I hit record before bed, mostly just to ease my mind. I thought if I watched the footage in the morning and saw nothing, maybe I could finally convince myself I was losing it and move on. But that's not what happened. The first night, nothing. Second night, same. Third night, that's when everything changed. It was around 3:33 a.m. I remember that exact time because I kept rewinding and watching that moment over and over, hoping I was seeing it wrong. But I wasn't. In the footage, the doll just sat there, perfectly still. And then without warning, its head turned, slowly. Like someone turning to look over their shoulder. It didn't jerk or glitch. It moved smoothly, deliberately. And once it faced the camera, it blinked. Both eyes. Just once. I stopped breathing. I paused the video, dragged the timeline back, watched it again. Blink, head turn, blink. It wasn't the lights. It wasn't a bug. It was real. I felt this cold wave rush through me like someone had just opened a freezer door behind my neck. And I swear, for a second, the doll seemed to stare directly into the camera. Into me. I didn't even think. I grabbed the doll, walked straight outside and threw it into the trash bin by the curb. Slammed the lid shut, went back inside, locked the doors, checked them twice. Sat on the floor, knees up to my chest, arms wrapped tight around myself like I could physically hold my sanity in place. I didn't sleep that night. I barely even blinked. But when I woke up the next morning, groggy and sore from the floor, I dragged myself into the kitchen and nearly dropped the glass I was holding. The doll was sitting on the kitchen counter, right next to the coffee maker, exactly where I stood every morning to start my day, like it knew, like it was waiting. And suddenly I wasn't questioning my sanity anymore. I was questioning what I'd brought into my home. After that morning, I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't explain it away or laugh it off. Something was wrong. And not just wrong like a haunted house story. This felt personal. Like the doll wasn't just haunted, but aware. I stopped touching it. I wouldn't even look at it for long. I'd walk through the house with my eyes slightly averted, like I was afraid that one glance would invite it in deeper. I started researching paranormal forums, old Reddit threads, even the dark web corners people joke about but never actually visit. I found a few stories that sounded close. People saying dolls had moved on their own. One woman mentioned hearing voices when she was alone. Another guy claimed his dog disappeared too, and he started seeing it in his dreams. Its eyes glowing, its body still, like it was trapped somewhere it didn't belong. I reached out to a local paranormal investigator I found through a weird podcast. He sounded skeptical at first, but when I told him everything, his tone changed. He asked for the footage. I sent it. A few hours later, he called me back. But the call didn't go the way I expected. He was in mid-sentence when the line started cutting out, just static and silence. Then out of nowhere, I heard it. A voice. Low, raspy, and close. It whispered one word. Max. That was it. Then the call dropped. I stood there holding the phone to my ear like maybe if I didn't move, none of it would be real. But it was. That voice didn't sound human. It didn't sound like anything I've ever heard. It made my skin crawl. I tried to call him back. No answer. I sent emails. Nothing. It was like he'd just vanished. That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about me anymore. This thing, whatever it was, it took Max. Not like a spirit haunting a house. This felt targeted, intentional, like I'd brought something home that wanted more than just to scare me. I started sleeping with the lights on again, kept the TV playing noise in the background, anything to drown out the silence. Because in that silence, I kept hearing it, that voice, that name, Maximum. I didn't decide to destroy the doll out of courage. It wasn't some brave moment, it was desperation. I'd hit a point where I couldn't take another night of whispers or knocks or waking up with that crushing feeling that something was in the room with me. I kept thinking about Max, about the way he looked at that doll before he vanished. Whatever this thing was, it took him, and I couldn't let it stay. I carried it outside at dusk, wrapped in an old towel like it might bite me. The fire pit in the backyard had barely been used since I moved in, but that night I lit it like my life depended on it. The flames rose fast, hot, dry, hungry. I didn't hesitate. I tossed the doll in without a word. For a moment it just lay there, surrounded by flames. Then, the fire died. Not slowly, not like it was running out of fuel. It just went out, like someone flipped a switch. Smoke rose, but the doll, completely untouched, not even a burn mark, just sitting there, in the ashes, like it had been waiting for me to try. My stomach dropped. The air around me felt wrong, too thick, too cold. I turned to go back inside, and that's when I heard it, scratching. It wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from inside the walls. I froze. The scratching wasn't random. It was rhythmic, frantic, like claws dragging across wood. Then it stopped. For a full 5 seconds, total silence. And then, a bark. It was Max's bark. Short, sharp, desperate. I pressed my ear to the wall, heart pounding so hard it hurt. I heard it again. Another bark, muffled, like it was coming from somewhere far away, somewhere deep. I started yelling his name, pounding on the wall, calling out like somehow my voice could reach him. But the bark never came back. I stood there shaking, hands against the drywall, whispering, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry." That was the night I knew. Whatever had taken Max wasn't done yet. And whatever this thing really was, it didn't want to be burned. It wanted to stay. It's been 3 weeks since that night. The doll is gone, or at least I think it is. I didn't see it again after the fire. The next morning I went out to the pit and it was just ash. No trace of porcelain, No sign of anything ever being there. Just cold, gray dust. I should have felt relief. I should have celebrated. But all I felt was empty. The house is quiet now in a way that doesn't feel peaceful. It's a kind of silence that presses against your ears, like it's waiting. The lights don't flicker anymore. No knocks, no dreams. But that doesn't mean it's over. Not really, because I still hear Max. Sometimes when I'm falling asleep. Sometimes when I'm just about to turn a corner. It's not like before. It's softer now, distant, like an echo that never quite fades. I tried reaching out to that investigator again, but his number's disconnected. His website, gone, like he never existed. Part of me wonders if the moment he saw that footage, he became part of the story too. Another name whispered through the dark. I haven't told anyone. What would I even say? My dog disappeared into thin air and a doll tried to eat my soul? No one would believe it. Hell, I still don't believe it, not fully. I keep second-guessing myself. Was it all in my head? Some kind of breakdown? But then I remember the footage, the bark, the voice that said his name. I still wake up at 3:33 a.m. sometimes. No reason. Just suddenly wide awake, heart racing. I lie there in bed listening, waiting. And sometimes, just for a second, I think I hear breathing. Not mine, not the wind. Just this soft, steady inhale, exhale, coming from the other side of the room. I don't go in the attic anymore. I don't go near the back of the closet, where the wall feels colder than the rest of the house. And I never walk past a doll in a store without feeling the hairs on my neck stand up. Some things don't want to be found, and some things don't leave, even when you burn them. I still think about him every day, maximum. I've gone through every photo on my phone, every old video clip where his tail is wagging, his eyes lit up. I keep his collar by my bed now. It's worn and quiet, like a memory I can hold in my hand. And sometimes I catch myself calling his name out loud, just to see if I'll hear something back. I never do, but something changed in me after all this. I don't just see the world differently, I feel it differently. There's this layer underneath everything, something unseen, unspoken. And once you've brushed against it, once you've felt it watching you from the corner of the room, you can't unfeel it. You carry it. It becomes part of you. People always say haunted things are just stories, just entertainment. But what if the stories are warnings? What if we're not supposed to mess with the things we don't understand? That doll didn't look dangerous. It was old, fragile, but whatever was inside it, whatever had tied itself to it, was far from fragile. It was patient, and it didn't just want to scare me, it wanted something more. I still don't know why it took Max. I don't know where he is, or if he's still out there, in some version of space I can't see. But I'll never stop hoping. And if you're still here, listening, really listening, then maybe this wasn't just my story. Maybe it's a reminder. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, if your pet growls at a corner, if the air in the room suddenly feels heavy for no reason, don't ignore it, because I didn't listen soon enough. I brushed off the signs. I tried to be logical, reasonable, but some things don't care about reason. Some things wait in the quiet, and some doors, once opened, never fully close. So if you ever find something strange, an object, a sound, a blink that shouldn't have happened, walk away. Let it go. Don't bring it home, because once it knows your name, it might never forget it. If you made it this far, I hope you sleep better than I do. But tell me, have you ever seen something move that shouldn't have? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. And remember, keep your eyes open, always.